Welcome everyone to the Thursday edition of Fair Territory. I'm Ken Rosenthal here with Alanna Rizzo. I am coming to you today from Birmingham, Alabama. That is the site of the Rickwood Game tonight on Fox, the tribute to the Negro Leagues, the remembrance of Willie Mays. It's going to be a very special night, Alanna.
Oh, Ken, I'm so jealous. I'm so excited that you're there. I can't wait to watch the game tonight on Fox and see what you're going to be talking about. But obviously, what a special moment for baseball to invest in the Negro Leagues and invest in Rickwood Field, the oldest professional baseball park in our great country. So looking forward to that. Let's talk a little bit about Willie Mays and what he meant to you. I don't know, Ken, and all of your years covering this great game, if you have a specific Willie Mays story that you'd want to share.
Well, I didn't really cover him because he was before my time as a player, but he was my father's favorite player. And my dad grew up in the Bronx, near the Polo Grounds, near Yankee Stadium as well, but he was a New York Giants fan. And Willie was his guy, as Willie was the guy for so many people, not just in New York, but all over the country. And of course, later in San Francisco. My dad claims he was at the Miracle at Coogan's Bluff in 1951 when Bobby Thompson hit the shot round the world with Willie on deck. I don't know if that's true. He's not here with us anymore. I can't verify it, but that was my memory of Willie Mays. Just what my dad would talk about, the way he played, the excitement he generated, and of course, the immense talent.
And Rickwood Field, what a special venue for this game tonight, Ken, between the San Francisco Giants, very apropos, of course, but also the St. Louis Cardinals. Two teams are still very much alive in that wild card hunt in the National League, but to be able to go and put on the throwback uniforms and be able to walk on the same field that some of the game's greats were able to, 107 current day Hall of Famers have stepped foot at Rickwood Field in some form or fashion. I mean, that's got to be really cool for you to be able to witness history tonight.
It's living history, and it's amazing, Alana, what they've done to the field, first of all. As you said, the stadium is 114 years old. They basically had to redo the entire field. I'm sure we'll be talking about that tonight. They had to move home plate back, move the back wall up, reorient the field 5 degrees counterclockwise, take out 5,000 tons of material, all of that. But what is so cool, as you mentioned, is the history here. The Birmingham Barons played here, the old Birmingham Barons, the Birmingham Black Barons played here at the same time, the Negro Leagues team. And beyond that, there were major league teams that stopped here for spring training. That's how Babe Ruth played here. So all of these ghosts will be at Rickwood. And of course, the biggest one of all now is Willie. Willie made his professional debut at age 17 for the Birmingham Black Barons at Rickwood Field. It doesn't get much more historic or poignant than that.
It's really incredible. And Leo DeRocher said that Willie Mays, Ken, did not need to be taught anything. He knew everything, how to do everything. See, the only other player that he could think of like that was Joe DiMaggio. And Joe DiMaggio even said, you know what, I think Willie Mays is the closest thing to perfect as far as a player as I've ever seen. I'm certainly paraphrasing those quotes, but it's just amazing what Willie Mays has meant to so many people in the game and even in today's game. You'll see later on coming up what Logan Webb did in terms of being able to honor Willie Mays. When you think about Rickwood Field and you think about the Negro League players, Ken, it wasn't integrated until I believe 1954, right? When Stan Musial hit that massive home run. But to be able to walk in the same, I kind of liken it to, Field of Dreams a little bit. But this was real. This was a real field that players got to play on, and just the history there. That's got to be, if walls could talk, if you will.
It was real for sure. It was a painful time in the country's history, especially for blacks in this part of the country. There was segregation. There were awful things that happened in Birmingham. And yet, the civil rights movement, there were some huge moments that took place during that time here in Birmingham as well. So, all of that cannot be forgotten, nor can it be forgotten why we're even here honoring the Negro Leagues, because black players were not allowed to play in the major leagues. That's the genesis of all of this, the segregation that took place. So it is going to be a special night to bring all of this together and to remember not just the good, but also the bad, and take a step forward. Hopefully, all of us, as we remember and we honor these players who were some of the great players in the game, who are now honored statistically by Major League Baseball. Their records are official. It's just a really cool moment in general for the past, for the history of the game, and for the Negro Leagues in particular.
No question about it. And by the way, there's still last minute tickets available. You have an opportunity to witness history. Our friends at SeatGeek are the perfect people to do that for you. SeatGeek is the official ticket marketplace of Major League Baseball, so they have you covered for all of your baseball ticket needs. With over 28 million downloads, they're the #1 rated ticketing app. Baseball season, of course, is in full swing. You don't want to miss out. SeatGeek has your tickets to every game and, of course, concerts, festivals, and more. Every ticket is backed by their buyer guarantee, and SeatGeek is the only site that lets you return your tickets ahead of the event with swaps. Use our code FAIR for $20 off of tickets at SeatGeek. That's $20 off your first purchase with promo code FAIR. Make sure you click the link in the description to download the app. So, Ken, as we move forward here, don't forget, folks that are listening and watching, to get your questions in for Grillin Ken. That's coming up in just a moment. But before that, let's get to the lead, and we're going to talk a little bit about the Boston Red Sox, and more particular, Ken, Jarren Duran, who is really starting to force his name into a conversation of really one of the game's best players right now.
I'll start with the Red Sox, Alanna, because what they're accomplishing is pretty incredible when you look at all the injuries and consider all that they've experienced so far this season. In the last week and a half or so, they've taken 2 of 3 from the Phillies, 2 of 3 from the Yankees, and then they just swept the Toronto Blue Jays. Right now, they are 1 game out of a wild card. They're going to get Wilyer Abreu back probably this weekend. He is a key player for them. They're going to get Tristan Casas back in July. They are a young team that is exciting. We saw them steal 9 bases against the Yankees on Sunday Night Baseball. They're going to have their ups and downs, as their manager Alex Cora has said, but to be in this position, it is really impressive. And you mentioned Duran. This guy is emerging now as one of the top all-around players in the game, and it hasn't been easy for him. He's been open about his mental health struggles, and yet right now he is putting it all together. He is the league leader in triples. He is second in the league in doubles. His WAR is way up there among outfielders and among players in general. And he is just this all-around guy right now. 275 batting average, 803 OPS, 17 for 20 in stolen bases, and one of the best defensive center fielders in the game. So Jarren Duran is becoming a star, and he's played every day for this team. So the Red Sox are a story that I never anticipated really being a story. And come the deadline, Alanna, they're going to have some interesting decisions.
Yeah, especially, Ken, since they didn't do anything in the offseason with the exception of signing Lucas Giolito, who is not in service right now, obviously, because of the surgery. But now they definitely do have a decision to make. A couple more notes for you on Jarren Duran as we're talking about him emerging as one of the best players so far in 2024. 19 steals, third in the AL East, 21 doubles, second in the AL East, 10 triples, leads the majors in triples. 86 hits rather, that leads the AL East, 37 extra base hits, third in the American League East in his own division. But all of those categories, Ken, with the exception of one, leads the Boston Red Sox. I don't know that many of us were talking about Jarren Duran going into the 2024 season. As far as the only category that doesn't is the steals. He has, a teammate that has one more steal than he does. But I mean, is he an all-star in your mind?
Oh, he's unquestionably an all-star. And I know there has been a lot of talk in Boston about this in the last couple of weeks. I don't even know that there's much question. He is their best player right now. He is the guy. So we're going to see him in the All-Star game. I feel pretty confident about that, and hopefully for years to come, because he is an exciting guy to watch. I'm not going to say he's a Willie Mays type. There is only one Willie Mays, but he is that kind of all-around threat that, of course, Willie was the forerunner for all of these players, these great players that we see today.
Yeah, and I love the fact that Jarren Duran Post tried to get in that lineup every single day. Another player that you have your eye on recently, Ken, is kind of Willie Mays-esque in the way that he goes about his game with a joyful demeanor, and that's Royce Lewis of the Twins.
He is an amazing individual, and I watched my friend Howard Bryant on PBS talking about Willie the other night, and Howard, of course, was Hank Aaron's biographer. He is one of the great voices in our sport and in our country, and he made the point that Willie was not just a great player. Of course, he was a great player. We know all the numbers. But he played with a joy, an ebullience, a flair that too often we don't see today. And Howard's point was, we're focusing now on numbers, an exit velocity, launch angle, sprint speed, all of these things. And yet we don't really see players playing with the joy that Willie showed. And Royce Lewis is a guy who does that. He's also an incredibly talented player. He's got 25 home runs in his first career 84 games. Last night, he broke a bulb or broke a scoreboard at Target Field with one of his homers. He's a guy with a lot of fire, a lot of passion, a lot of pure love for the game of baseball. And if there is a legacy to Willie Mays, and there are many, of course, this should be one of them. Play with joy. Play with fire, but play with joy. And let's appreciate the joy that we see from certain players. Let's face it, Ohtani, great player. Love him. Doesn't really show much joy on the field. Even Mookie, great player. We all love him. But it's not that same kind of infectious spirit that Willie had. Now, not everybody can have that. We are who we are as people. But it's just cool to see Royce Lewis kind of embody that.
Yeah, Ken, they say play ball. They don't say work ball. I mean, they go out there to play ball. And it's funny that you mentioned Ohtani in this conversation with Royce Lewis, because Royce Lewis slash line through his first 90 career games is almost identical to Shohei Ohtani's 2024 season. If you look at Royce, it's 313, 375, 617. Ohtani is 317, 388, and 608. So it's interesting to have those two comparisons. But I agree with you. I'd like to see the personality of some of these players a little bit more. All right. Now we do have a question from Grillin Ken here from the Foul Territory handle on the Orioles starting pitching options. Again, Kyle Bradish is out for the season, of course, with surgery. They already have John Means on the IL as well. So I don't think, Ken, and you tell me more, that Corbin Burnes and Grayson Rodriguez could be the answer as far as just those two guys. They need help. So Foul Territory, who are legitimate starting pitcher trade options for the Orioles?
The most notable names right now are Jesus Luzardo and Garrett Crochet from the White Sox and the Marlins, respectively. Obviously, there are other teams that are going to want those guys, and maybe they are in a position, the Orioles, to do something creative too. Maybe it's Eric Fetty from the White Sox instead. Maybe it's someone we don't even know entirely at this point. But the point here is they do need a guy, Alanna, as you said, and it was so unfortunate what happened to Bradish, because they lined up Corbin Burnes, Grayson Rodriguez, Kyle Bradish. That's a pretty good trio to go into the postseason with, but it's not going to be. So they're going to need additional help. They know that. And as I've said many times before on this show and others, they have enough prospects where they can still do more. Not just get Corbin Burnes. They can get other players. They can get a reliever, an outfielder if they want as well, and do all this. Whether you put everything into one basket this year and try to go for it in 2024, I don't see them doing that. They're set up so well for the future. But they certainly understand they have an opportunity before them. They certainly want to reinforce the team. Mike Elias, their GM, is going to be searching for starting pitching. There's no question about it. Luzardo, I would imagine, would be the top target. But that's as of right now. Things could happen over the next 5 weeks.
I could see the Miami Marlins parting with Luzardo. I don't know, though. What's your opinion on Chicago letting go of Eric Fetty or Garrett Crochet?
Oh, they'll do it for the right price. And
Okay.
Crochet is a really complicated guy because he's already at a career high in innings. He's a converted reliever. So is he going to be a starter for the rest of the season? If you're the Orioles, you need him to be a starter for the rest of the season. And I don't know that you can count on that happening. Fetty has been a starter. He has that track record of being a starter. So in some ways, he might make more sense for them. Maybe they do him in one of the relievers that the White Sox have, Kopech, somebody like that, even though Kopech's not having a great year. And there are other ways to skin this cat too. We talk about buyers and sellers as if that's the only way to go here. There are teams that will trade with other teams seeking to match holes or kind of just put things together. It could be two contenders. One has a weakness here, the other has a weakness there. That's how they can satisfy each other. So the buy-sell thing, it's easy to look at it that way, but it's not the only way.
Sticking with starting pitching, we have a question on Shota Imanaga, the Chicago Cubs ace, who's been tremendous for the Cubs this year, and obviously a big bright spot for a team that I thought Ken was going to do a little bit more. Wesley Allen has this. Imanaga seems to be running away with the National League Rookie of the Year, but being that he is not a true rookie, will Major League Baseball change the rule like the NHL did for foreign professional players? Of course, Shota Imanaga has played a lot of time in Japan, but he is a Major League Baseball rookie. What's your answer to Wesley's question?
Wesley, it's a good question. It's come up before, Ichiro and other Japanese players in particular. And In my view, MLB is right here. And yes, it's true that Imanaga is not your classic rookie, a 20-year-old kid coming out of the minor leagues. But given the challenges that players from Asia face coming to North America and excelling in the major leagues, adapting to a new culture, a new league, a new baseball, all kinds of new things, that kind of increases the degree of difficulty and it makes it harder for these guys to succeed. So, yes, Imanaga's 30 years old. He's worlds more experienced than some other rookies out there, most other rookies out there. But given the way the game is set up, I have no problem with this. I know it's a little bit unusual, and maybe there's some young guy somewhere who's getting robbed because Imanaga is most likely at this point going to be the rookie of the year, but I'm good with it.
Yeah, it's funny too because if you ask some of our other colleagues, they're absolutely against Imanaga being considered a rookie of the year just because of his age and the experience that he has in Japan. But again, to your point, I mean, it's a culture shock coming over here. I mean, imagine if you and I were sent to Japan and forced to do our jobs in Japanese, and we had absolutely no idea what the heck we were doing. So I can imagine that would be a little bit difficult for Imanaga. But he's been a lot of fun to watch. Okay, so the Yankees and the Orioles. Obviously, everybody kind of had that series circled on their calendar. Ken, wanted to know your thoughts about them throwing at one another. What's your takeaway from that?
I didn't take much away from it. And it's the game today where you can't throw inside without upsetting anybody. Now, obviously, when Judge gets hit in the hand, like Mookie got hit in the hand, and
Mm-hmm.
the injury risk is there, it is upsetting and understandably upsetting from the Yankees' perspective. You want to throw in, up and in, be my guest, but do it in a way where you're not hitting guys. I think we all understand that. The Orioles understand that. No one seems to think it was deliberate. Obviously, we saw some retribution last night, or what appeared to be retribution with Gunner. I get it. We all get it. That's the way the game is played. But I don't expect the tension to erupt. It shouldn't erupt based on this. And one of the things about the game today, it gets to the point at times where players are a little too sensitive. And I'm not saying Judge was too sensitive. He was right to be upset. But if you're going to pitch against Aaron Judge, you need to go in once in a while. And if you go in once in a while, there's a chance that a player is going to get hit. So from that perspective, I don't have a problem with it, and I don't expect this to escalate.
Yeah, and thankfully, all images were okay. He's fine, unlike Mookie Betts, who's out for probably 6 to 8 weeks, and then the Dodgers will have to figure out how to get him back in the mix as far as timing and stuff is concerned. Luke wants to know: with Shane Baz back and Springs on the way, do the Rays hold a lot of starting pitching trade chips? That's a good question, Luke.
It is a good question. We're going to talk more about the Rays as we go on today. They do have Zach Eflin, who is making more money now as his contract keeps going. And you can see the Rays maybe doing something with him. Savali has not pitched well. I don't see it being him. And yes, with Boz and Springs, if they're coming back healthy and contributing, sure. I can see the Rays right now being sellers, period. I don't even know if it matters if Shane Baz and Jeffrey Springs come back for that part of the conversation. They are 4 games under 500. They're not a very good team. They've not played well all season. So, from that point of view alone, maybe Zach Eflin becomes their big chip, and maybe he's a guy for Baltimore, for example.
Yeah, we will talk about them in a little bit coming up in Dude and Dork. I don't know, Ken, that I would have thought that, as we talked earlier in the show, that the Red Sox would have been 1 game out. I really didn't think in the AL East. I knew the Yankees were going to be good. I knew the Red Sox were going to be interesting, or not interesting, but I thought they were going to be better than they were. The Rays have really surprised me. What's been the biggest surprise for you about them?
Rosarena and Diaz not hitting. And Randy and Rosarena and Yandy Diaz have been two of their best hitters for really the last few years, and it just has not happened for them this year. Brandon Lau, to some extent, is in that conversation as well. Harold Ramirez got released. He wasn't hitting. They just have not offensively really picked up any momentum, and it's because their best players have not played to the level of expectation.
Yeah, it's been unfortunate to see because you're so used to the Rays being there perennially. I mean, doing a lot with very little. Time now to move on to Dude and Dork, and this is an opportunity for Ken and I to give a deserving Dude and Dork of the week. It's great when we have a lot of Dude options. We struggled this time with some Dork options, but let's start first, Ken, with your Dude of the week.
It has to be Willie. And he was such a force in baseball, in really changing America too. Because Jackie, of course, beat down the door to become the first black player in the major leagues, first person of color. And Willie, it seems, became almost someone that the country could embrace in even a greater way than Jackie. Jackie, as again my friend Howard Bryant said, was this smoldering figure. Willie was this joyful figure. And white, black, whatever you were, you could not help but like Willie Mays or love Willie Mays. He is the dude of the week for me and really for so many people out there, so many baseball fans.
You know what I loved about Willie too is Anthony Castrovins tweeted this yesterday, Ken, that Willie's name was actually Willie legally, and Willie is a kid's name, right? His name is not William legally. His father's name is William, or was William rather. He was named after William Taft, but Willie was Willie, and that's just such a kid's name, and he played with such joy as a little kid. It was great to see. So my dude of the week is also a San Francisco Giant, but I wanted to tip my cap to Logan Webb. Who was coming back out in the game. He was pitching that night, going back out for the sixth inning. And that's when they announced that Willie Mays had passed. And he asked the umpire, Ken, to stop the clock. He said, I would like to stop the clock because I want to take a moment to acknowledge what's happening. And he said it was hard at first. I took my hat off. I was looking at the scoreboard. I was just thinking about him, meaning Willie. I kind of looked at the umpire. I was like, I think you need to stop the clock. I needed to take a moment to think about it and be prideful for the jersey I was wearing, the hat I was wearing, knowing Willie did the same. So this is so interesting that obviously Willie had such an impact, not only in the Negro Leagues, but with everything that he did for our game's greats before, but he also has such an impact on today's game and today's players. And it's not just because Ken Logan is a San Francisco Giant. All around the league, you saw the outpouring of support and words that people had to say about Willie Mays.
Well, he was around the Giants a bit, so Logan Webb did have some interaction with them. And the players who are on the Giants or have been for the last few years who would see Willie in the clubhouse once in a while, it was less lately than it was in previous years. They had a great affection for him. And I also give credit to the umpires who sometimes can be rigid with granting timeout, and they figured out here. It's obvious, I know, but you don't always see obvious things taking place. Credit to the umpires as well for stopping the game.
Yeah, read the room, understand the moment.
Yeah.
And I'm glad that they were able to do that. Our friend Peter Gammon said, I remember watching a game with Henry Aaron when he said, if Willie played today, he'd lead Sports Center 5 days a week. Me, I did the same thing every day. I was boring, the two greatest in different time signatures. So let me ask you this. Is Willie the greatest player, Ken, in Major League Baseball history?
I would have to say yes. And I want to point out one thing that is not often talked about with Willie Mays. He might have been the guy to break Babe Ruth's record if not for his years in the military. He missed most of 1952, all of 1953. Who knows how many home runs he might have hit those 2 years. Those were two of his early years, of course. 51 was his first season. So given that he was a center fielder, Hank was a right fielder, given the flair that he played with, the cap flying off, the arms flying, all that, his skill in center field, his five-tool ability, I haven't seen every player in Major League history, but I'd have to say it's hard to beat the package that he presented.
And I learned something new every day. And I was, of course, learning more and more about Willie Mays. And I understand that he wore a hat that was too small on purpose because he wanted it to fly off of his head because he said, we're in the entertainment business. People like to see that. So Willie Mays, what a character. May he rest his soul. He was so amazing for this game. All right. Your dork of the week, Ken. Who is it?
Two entire rosters of American League East teams. I'm going to give it to the Rays and the Blue Jays, both of whom are 35 and 39, both of whom are 15 games out of first place. They're closer in the wild card race. They're 5.5 back, not so bad. It's surmountable. But at the same time, these teams have been huge disappointments. The Blue Jays, frankly, more than the Rays, but both of them. And they can cite reasons up and down, say we think we're going to play better, et cetera, et cetera. The Jays have made a number of moves of late to bring some younger players into the mix, trying to get an offensive spark. So far, not seemed to be working. So they are my dorks of the week. You don't like it, you can look at the standings right there to see what I'm talking about. You got to play better. Play better. It's always the message.
My goodness, that's unbelievable. 35 and 39. When you see the Tampa Bay Rays and the Toronto Blue Jays 15 games out on June 20th, my word, that's a problem. All right, my dork of the week. I'm going to combine two sports here. Congratulations, first and foremost, to the Boston Celtics for winning the World Championship here recently in the NBA. I'm a Denver Nuggets fan, so whatever. But I have to give my dork of the week to Jason Tatum. The reason is, go ahead and take a listen to this, and then I'll tell you why he's my dork of the week.
I know everybody will wonder what would happen if we didn't win. I guess we'll never know.
First of all, Jason Tatum, that is so unoriginal. Jason Tatum took that directly, and maybe he doesn't even know. I don't know, but he took that directly from Corey Seager, who at the World Series, Ken, as you know, when the Texas Rangers won the World Series, Corey Seager was on stage as the World Series MVP and said, people wondered what would happen if the Texas Rangers didn't win the World Series. I guess they'll never know. And Corey was basically slapping back at Alex Bregman of the Houston Astros, who said the same thing when the Astros ended up winning the division. Remember, they were neck and neck at the end of the year in the AL West. And he said, people wondered what would happen if the Astros didn't win the division. I guess they'll never know. Corey gets the last laugh as a World Series champion, but Jason Tatum, come on, man. You can't do that. You can't do that. Come up with something a little bit more original, or at least have a little bit more flair with it. I don't know.
Alanna, I am guessing Jason Tatum had no idea what Corey Seager said.
But how does he? I don't know. But how do you come up with the exact same words? Like, he must have, maybe through osmosis, he happened to hear it somewhere, and he was just like, "Yeah, this sounds good." I don't know. I thought he could have come up with something better. But congratulations to Jason Tatum, obviously the Boston Celtics. Derek White, who is a University of Colorado product as well, his final year in school. I went to the University of Colorado, so proud of Derek White for sure. So, all right, Ken, what are you looking most forward to tonight from your broadcast at Rickwood Field?
We've got a lot of cool stuff planned. Now, it's live television. I have no idea if all of this stuff is going to actually transpire, but all I will say is that it will be worth the watch, I believe. And we do have some things that we're going to do that will be really neat. We have some people we're going to talk to that will be really interesting, and the focus will be on the Negro Leagues tribute, on Willie, on Rickwood Field, much more so than the Cardinals and Giants. So we are all, and I say this with all sincerity, we are all quite excited to do this game. It's an honor to do this game, and frankly, Alanna, I cannot wait.
No, I couldn't agree with you more. It is quite the honor. There's a couple of comments here. The best player in the history of baseball is Sandy Koufax. Interesting. That's an interesting take. Sometimes I wonder, though, if pitchers can be the best player in baseball history. And no. Sandy, obviously, his career was cut. I mean, he elected to cut it short there. Me, not Pete Rose. No, I don't think he's the best player in history. What's your take, Ken?
He's a great player, and I thank him for checking in here, but no, it's not Pete Rose.
Yeah, I don't think it's Pete Rose either. I think it's pretty safe to say Willie Mays is probably the greatest. He certainly was the greatest living player. Now it'll be determined who's left as far as the current players are concerned. All right, time now for our friends at BetMGM as we get this in here for you. Once a day, play our free 2-play BetMGM Swing for the Fences for a chance to win daily prizes. Play as the batter and pick an area of the strike zone. Get a single, double, triple, home run, or fly out. Free-to-play promotion for BetMGM Sportsbook. BetMGM Sportsbook account holders who play our BetMGM Swing for the Fences will have the opportunity to win a reward if they get a hit. Reward types include parlay boost tokens, odds boost tokens, SGP boost tokens, bonus spins in eligible casino states, and bonus bets. All rewards expire in 24 hours. If you have a gambling problem or a concern, please call 1-800-GAMBLER. So that's going to do it for us here, Ken, on this live edition on Thursday. Enjoy your broadcast tonight. Ken will be back on Monday with Fair Territory and not Dodgers territory in its normal form today. Clint Pasillas and I are actually going to do a post-game show. The Dodgers are playing at 3 p.m. Eastern, so Dodgers territory will follow that game. For Ken Rosenthal, I'm Alanna Rizzo. Thanks so much for watching. We'll see you soon.